We are easing on down the road, and the theme for the month is the wizard within. And for several years now, I have been taking the month of June and just acknowledging that we're all on our way to the Emerald City, and that wizard within lives and moves and has its being at the center of our one life. But what happens is we sometimes seek outside of ourselves. We don't realize that the energy is within us. And what I love about this theme and looking at the yellow brick road, which is really what? The path of enlightenment. Yellow is the color of wisdom and that golden wisdom, that energy. And that we are all out picturing at times the consciousness of Dorothy. And I want you all to know during this wonderful international month of acknowledging our beautiful gay community, we're all friends of Dorothy. I want you to know that. And that Dorothy energy lives and moves and has its being within us because we're all part of the adventure of life. And so, to recap last week, she's coming home and she's got her little Toto, and Mrs. Gulch wants to destroy Toto because Toto bit her. And I just love when Aunt Em said, well, we can tie her up. She's very gentle with gentle people, that is. In other words, you're looking rather suspect, Elvira Gulch. And then what does Aunt Em say? For 23 years, I wanted to tell you what I think of you. And then she stopped. And what'd she say? But I am a good Christian woman and I won't. And so she goes into Dorothy to console Dorothy as they give up Toto. And of course, Toto is in a little basket and he gets out and he runs back to Dorothy. And because love always knows where it wants to be. And then Dorothy has to make a decision. How many of us have made decisions that this will not do? And that I need to take action here. I need to put the works of the faith. And so then she, of course, meets Professor Marvel. He has his little crystal ball and he's very kind and he's very compassionate. And he takes a little picture out of Dorothy's basket and he sees Aunt Em and says that you're very loved. And I see that she's crying and she has her hand on her heart. And so Dorothy wants to run back to Aunt Em if she's, experiencing dis-ease, right? Well, we can never go back. And what happens is that when that twister, that cyclone energy came into being, and everyone was down in the cellar, Dorothy tried to get down to the cellar. The winds were outrageous. She ran into the house calling. And what happens? The window becomes unhinged. And I always think it's interesting it was a window. Because archetypically, a window is something that we peer through, but the window became unhinged, hit her in the head, she falls back on the bed, and she goes into an altered state of consciousness as all these images pass before her. And at first they're very Kansas-like images. And in the film, of course, Kansas is very, very gray. And there's no real life and energy. When she gets home from school, Auntie Em and Uncle Henry, what are they doing? They're counting chicks. They're into the energy of what they're doing at that moment, and they don't give Dorothy the time of day. And said, well, go stay out of trouble. Just go and appease yourself. And so she goes into what? Somewhere over the rainbow. Skies are blue. Bluebirds are flying beautifully. And what happens when that house lifts from the foundations of that very bleak existence in Kansas and lands in Oz on top of what? Negativity, the old witch. So when the energy of her higher selves comes in a bubble, because all of these aspects are aspects of ourselves. The little munchkins that come in and they're laughing, but they're rather fearful, little fearful thoughts. Glenda, the good witch of the north, is part of our higher consciousness, right? And of course, the wicked witch of the east, the house has landed on her. And what happens is when the Wicked Witch of the West, her sister, comes, and she sees the ruby red slippers, and she goes over to them, suddenly they find their way to Dorothy's feet. Now remember, our feet represent our understanding, that we put one foot in front of the other, and that when we find our yellow brick road that begins with a spiral, and life goes not backward nor tarries with yesterday. Life is the forward expression of the soul. This is a soul journey. This is letting go of what no longer serves in the egoic way. And that the archetypes, remember, the innocent that comes into the world, all is wonderful, all is light, all is beauty. And then suddenly there's disillusionment. We move into the orphan. We're at the effect of it. And we don't, feel appreciated, and the disappointment of the orphan and feeling abandoned. And then from what happens? We get up our warrior energy and we're going to walk that yellow brick road. And what's so beautiful about our compassionate heroine, 12 years old, and remember, 12 is a number of completion for all of us. And so she's moving into adulthood, and she's on this journey. And she wants to go home. Now, she wanted to run away from home at one point, but now, she's in a whole new experience and she wants to go home. But she says, what? I know I cannot go back the way I came. Now, Einstein said that we can never solve problems with the same energy that created them. We cannot do that. It's, it's a law of physics. So we'll just keep getting what? The same. So we have to recreate our experience. And so she says, I cannot go back the way I came. This cyclone, this energy. And of course, there is always a guide within the house. There is always a doctor in the house. There is always the energy of the great physician within the house, that our body is the house. It is the vehicle, the expression of our higher dimension. So when Dorothy, she came into, this amazing energy as the innocent, moved into the orphan, went into the warrior energy, that she can find her way home. And she has to what? Follow the yellow brick road. And when those ruby red slippers, when Glinda, the Good Witch of the North, when she expressed them and moved the energy to Dorothy's feet, they could not be taken off. And what did Glinda say? Keep them tied upon your feet. They must be very powerful. The magic must be very powerful for the old Wicked Witch of the West to want them so badly. Keep them on your feet tightly. And this was her amazing counsel to Dorothy. And so Dorothy starts on her journey. And of course, she meets the Scarecrow, which is all part of ourselves. That every time that we put ourselves down, every time we drop something, think, oh, you dummy, or we're trying to think of something and we call ourselves names. What are we doing? We are really, this is detrimental to our true self-image. And so we need to teach ourselves that we all make mistakes and that we get to take it, do it again, Sam, right? And that we allow the energy to unfold. So Dorothy wants to find her home. The Scarecrow, he wants a brain. And the truth is, the right and left hemisphere of the brain within each of us, he's really very logical. And he has an amazing genius within him, but he doesn't know it, right? And so it has to be awakened. And off they go. And then they meet the Tin Man, who all he wants is a heart. And that when the Tin Master created him, he forgot to give him a heart. But yet the Tin Man is very compassionate, very loving. He just needs the oil of gladness in the joints that have calcified. That when our belief systems calcify, the oil of gladness, the energy of light that permeates the energy field allows us to move forward in a way that serves at the very highest level. So here are the allies that are right there. And you know what's so interesting is that Toto represented what? The life force energy. He got her into all the trouble to begin with. He was the one that chased old Elvira Gulch's cat in the garden, right? And then when she took the rake to hit him, he bit her. But then Dorothy had her own hostility because she told Elvira Gulch, I could bite you myself, you wicked old witch. Right? Ran to her room. But love always knows where it wants to be. And so her little ally, they begin this amazing journey on the yellow brick road. And as we look at our own yellow brick road and the things that come up for us, and not only opportunities, but learning experiences. I love that. The part where they start picking the apples off the tree and the apple says, what are you doing? She goes, did the apple tree talk to me? You're taking my apples? Well, you know, in the ancient indigenous people, before they cut any kind of a plant, they asked permission and blessed it, whether it was sage or wheatgrass or whatever. They always asked permission. And in the Navajo quilts, they always created a flaw. And when someone would point out the flaw, they would say, yes, that is where Great Spirit can come in and move and weave and bless this quilt and the wearer of the quilt. And energetically, you know, we respect the energy of nature. But these apple trees are rather hostile. And so the scarecrow, who, you know, thought he didn't have a brain, used reverse psychology and said, we don't want these old apples. They're probably filled with green worms anyway. And what did the apple tree do? Start taking apples off its branches and throwing them so that they could gather apples. So the scarecrow, putting himself down, if I only had a brain, right? If I only had a brain, is really a genius. And using reverse psychology so that they have this wonderful opportunity of, and the apple is just so archetypical, isn't it? So archetypical. Biting into the apple. Into what? Sacred knowledge, right? Sacred knowledge. And so they're on their way. And as they are on their way, it's, if I only had a heart, if I only had a brain, I just need to get home. I just need to get home. And the ruby red slippers. And what happens is they find, you know, in this amazing forest, and they're looking, and Dorothy said, this is feeling kind of scary. Do you think there's wild animals? And what did the Tin Man say? Oh, I'm sure of it. The scarecrow says, oh, yes, I'm sure there's lions and tigers and bears. Oh, my. Lions and tigers and bears. Oh, my. Lions and tigers and bears. Oh, my. And so scary. And what happens? The lion comes out. And he's like fierce. And he's just doing all of these, you know, gyrations of being fierce. And they're all like very scared. Until he starts chasing what? Toto. And Toto runs, and he runs after him. And Dorothy runs in with her warrior energy, the archetype of the warrior, from the innocent into the orphan. Now she's got warrior energy, and swoops up her little Toto and slaps the cowardly lion on the nose and said, shame on you, picking on, you know, a man of straw is bad enough, but then a little innocent dog. And she takes Toto in her arms. And what happens? The cowardly lion begins crying. She says, you're nothing but a coward. And he said, I know it. They're all stunned. If I only had courage. If I only had what? Nerve. Some nerve. So the compassionate heroine says, come with us. We're on our way to the Emerald City to meet the Wizard of Oz, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. Come with us. And so the compassionate heroine within Dorothy, they're off to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. And what's so amazing is that on our way, on our journeys on the yellow brick road, there are times, and of course the Wicked Witch is looking in her crystal ball, she sees them, and she's going to send them a little poison, isn't she? But she said, I have to make it pretty, and it has to have fragrance to what? Bring them in. So she creates a poppy field, and with fragrance, but a kind of poison that puts them to sleep. So as they go in to this energy field, they become very, very drowsy. And what happens? Isn't it interesting that Dorothy, the lion, and Toto were the ones that fell asleep? They were the ones that had that physical energy flowing through them. The blood that courses through my veins is the same color of the blood that courses through your veins. So the Tin Man and the Scarecrow are trying to keep them awake. These are the good allies. So what do they start doing? Help, help, help. And through the ethers, the Good Witch of the North sends them the blessing of snow, pure as the driven snow. And what does it do? It awakens them. How do we fall asleep on our yellow brick road? What draws us in? Is it television, where we turn on the tube and we watch it for hours when getting it off purpose? Is it the news? All the distractions that come into our lives that put us to sleep? What awakens us? And there is an energy in the universe that awakens us to our true purpose. And so as we open to our purpose, and it may not be the coolness of the snow, but it's something that awakens us to our true purpose. And we turn off that television and we keep on keeping on with our mission and why we are here. Everything in balance, right? Everything in balance. So as they're on the road, I'm so reminded of Russell Conwell. He wrote a beautiful little essay on Acres of Diamonds. And it was about a man in Iraq named Ahmed. And he was very content because he was very wealthy, and he was very wealthy because he was very content with what he had. And then one day, the old priest came in and said, you know, I saw someone, and they had this amazing, amazing, beautiful, beautiful diamond. And he said, he found it in a mine in the Far East. And he became so very rich. And suddenly Ahmed, who was so contented because he loved his life, and he loved his life because he was so contented, was suddenly thinking, oh, I could even be more powerful. I could be so wealthy. And so he set off on a journey to find the diamonds. And he went to Palestine, and he went to the Far East, and he went to Ephesus, and all of these amazing places. He never, ever found the diamonds, and he became poverty-stricken, sold his farm, and then became so downcast that he tossed himself into the sea, never to return again. And then one day the old priest came to visit the person that bought the farm. He saw this amazing, beautiful, beautiful diamond on the mantle, and said, is Ahmed, did he return? And the man said, no, I found that in the stream in the backyard. And he said, you found this in the stream in your backyard? He said, yes. And what happened is that stream, and this person who bought the farm from Ahmed, it became one of the most, it was the wealthiest diamond mine that they could find in the Far East, and made this man very, very wealthy. And all he did is he saw something sparkly, he picked it up, he didn't know what it was. Of course, we know that a diamond is just a piece of coal that made good under pressure. Each of us is that diamond, aren't we? We make good under pressure. And the archetypes of the energy of the caregiver within us that just thinks, oh, isn't this lovely? And I'm going to admire it from, this vantage point. And that right in our own backyard, right within us, is the pearl of great price, is the diamond and the energy of light with all its facets. So as Dorothy moved in to the caregiver with all of her wonderful allies, the Scarecrow, the Tin Man, and the Lion, and they were off to see the Wizard. And on the yellow brick road, with all their experiences, they had an opportunity to grow in miraculous ways and became very, very close, because these are all aspects of ourselves. And that every time that we want to grow and we feel that we're not good enough, that energy allows us to move through to the other side and to know that we have gifts and we have talents, and that Dorothy was there to reaffirm. Of course, they're still putting their power outside of them. She still has on her magic, wonderful ruby red slippers. She is still protected. But then she moves into the seeker archetype, which is the second quadrant of the 12 major archetypes. Seek and ye shall find, right? First is ask and ye shall receive. Seek and ye shall find. Knock and the door is opened unto you. And isn't it interesting that when they finally made it to Oz and they're knocking on the door, what happens is the gentleman that is there to receive them says, you may not knock on the door. You ring the bell, but they are knocking at the door. Ask and you shall receive. Seek and you shall find. Knock and the door is opened unto you. And so he puts a silly sign out. They ring the bell. He opens it. We're here to see the wizard, the wonderful Wizard of Oz. And of course, the Wicked Witch is up there and she's doing her thing on her little broom. Surrender, Dorothy, it says in smoke. Surrender, Dorothy. And they said, we have to see the wizard. And he says, he's not available. We have to see the wizard. This is Dorothy. And he said, oh, the witches, Dorothy? Yes. Oh, come in, come in. And then all the miraculous things when they actually enter the Emerald City. And remember, the Emerald City is within the heart. The chakra of the heart is green. It's about healing. It's about abundance. And it's also lined with the pink band of forgiveness and compassion. So they enter the Emerald City. They get all dolled up and all the energy to present to the wizard. And Dorothy still wearing her ruby red slippers of protection and acknowledging, all I want to do is go home. All I want to do is go home. And what we discover on our journey is that we are always home, that the energy of the heart is within us, and that we are always home, and that each archetype, the seeker, the lover, the destroyer, and the creator is the next quadrant, from the innocent, the orphan, the warrior, and the caregiver. And now they're going deeper into the seeker, deeper into the lover. And that lover energy is agape love. It's the love that acknowledges the love within me salutes the love within you, and the love within you salutes the love within me. And that we're all going home. And that home is within each of us. That diamond, those acres of diamonds are within us. That all of the facets of the diamond are within us. And each archetype that makes itself known. And of course, the witch is about destroying. Old Elvira Gulch was about destroying Toto. And so as the destroyer comes in, what happens is that everything unlike that shows up, and then it creates the space for the creator energy to create life in the way that is going to serve us. because we can find the Emerald City, but we have to have things in place and know where we are going. We need that sense of direction. And when that sense of direction arises, what happens? There is an unfoldment. There is a divine unfoldment. And so today, as we are on our journey, and we're all entering the Emerald City, and we're acknowledging that we're beyond our comfort zone, and that we are learning and growing and unfolding in miraculous ways. And that, yes, this is what over the rainbow looks like. This is the energy that when Noah put out that dove and it brought back what? The olive branch. And he said, as he looked at this dove, and he said, when the rainbow appears, I will remember the everlasting covenant between me and all living beings. Our path of enlightenment, this yellow brick road, spiraling, moving, allows us to come into that deeper revelation and integrate our experiences archetypically. So yes, the seeker, the lover, the destroyer. And you know what was so beautiful about Dorothy when she said, I didn't mean to kill the wicked witch of the East. The house just fell on her. But that's what the destroyer energy does, so that a new creation and embodiment within Dorothy can integrate her experience. And then the creator archetype arises, and she begins to create a life and integrate a life that is full of substance and energy and aliveness. So there's a cyclone, there's a fork in the road, there's the part of us that says you can go this way, or you can go this way, or you can go both ways. The choice is yours. The choice is yours. Choose thee this day whom you will serve. Choose thee this day the direction, the vertical path of enlightenment. And we can never go back the way we came. And that does make all the difference. So keep those ruby red slippers. In fact, I have a beautiful pair of ruby red slippers that I'll be sharing with you next week that were given to me on a dear friend on her 80th birthday. I was admiring her ruby red slippers, and she took them off her feet and gave them to me. And she said, I've broken them in for you. And she did. They're very comfortable. So I'll be sharing those with you next week, because life is an amazing journey, isn't it? And we're all going somewhere. And you know where that is? Higher yet. Where is it? Higher yet. Where is it? Higher yet. Because we are in a high place and we will not come down. None of these outer things move us. We are in a high place and we will not come down. I say namaste. The divinity within me salutes the divinity within you, and the divinity within you salutes the divinity within me. And if I am in that place in me and you are in that place in you, there truly is only one of us. Namaste. And I say shalom, the peace that passes all understanding. And God bless us, every single one. And so it is.